In this video, you're going to learn a new way in which you can identify your emotions. It's called the emotion wheel. Now, this uses different dimensions to describe emotions that we feel at any given time. The emotion wheel, like other diagrams related to emotions, is not perfect, but it's a great reference point as we explore and understand what we are feeling. Here's a quick question. How are you feeling today? Sometimes you might find it relatively simple to answer this question. You're happy, you're content, sad, maybe you're excited. Other times, this question doesn't have a simple answer. Maybe you're nervous, but you can't tell if it's a good nervous or a bad nervous. We both know those feelings. Maybe you're happy, but that happiness is mixed in with a twinge of guilt that prevents you from truly feeling happy. Identifying emotions is not an easy process, but it is crucial to understanding the way that people think and behave. In other videos, I have described the various cognitive theories about how emotion plays into our cognitive processes and the decisions that we make. So it makes sense that psychologists want to get a good grip on how we identify emotions and how they play into our behaviors and attitudes. So what is the emotion wheel? The emotion wheel was created by Robert Plutchik to help patients identify and describe the 8 core emotions: joy, sadness, fear, anger, anticipation, surprise, disgust, and trust. It was part of his overarching psychoevolutionary theory of emotion. Robert Plutchik, an American psychologist, created the emotion wheel in 1980. His theory of emotion expanded on the previous theories, some of which had labeled maybe 6 primary emotions that all human beings feel at some point or another. Plutchik believed that humans experienced 8 primary emotions, and each of these emotions has a polar opposite that is also included on the wheel. For example, joy and its opposing emotion, sadness; fear and its opposing emotion, anger; anticipation and its opposing emotion, surprise; and lastly, disgust and its opposing emotion, trust. Already, this wheel begins to resemble a color wheel, but there is much more to the emotion wheel than just the 8 primary emotions. So let's get into combinations, because you've probably found yourself in between 2 different emotions. You feel joy, but you also feel anticipation. Maybe you're waiting for a check in the mail, or are particularly excited about the year to come. Plutchik covered these emotions too, and in between each emotion is another emotion that combines 2 adjoining emotions. For example, anticipation and joy is optimism. Anger and anticipation is aggressiveness. Joy and trust is love. Trust and fear is submission. Fear and surprise is awe. Surprise and sadness is disapproval. Sadness and disgust is remorse. And disgust and anger is contempt. But we're not quite done yet, because not only do we have combinations of feelings, we also have degrees of them. Saying that you feel joy doesn't always feel like enough to cover the full spectrum of that one emotion. Some days you're jumping out of your seat with joy. Other days, you're simply feeling happy and calm, yet you would still say you're joyful. On either side of the primary emotions, Plutchik listed degrees in which these emotions can be felt. So these spectrums look like this. Maybe for anger, you could go from being annoyed to rage. From disgust, it could be boredom to loathing. From sadness, it could just be pensiveness to all the way to grief. And trust, you could just have acceptance all the way to admiration. Plutchik had used these 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional models to show the relationship between primary emotions, the spectrum in which they sit, and the combination of emotions that we may experience at once. Now, Plutchik did not just create the emotion wheel so we could explore and identify our emotions. He was interested in the ways that emotions allowed us to engage and learn basic survival mechanisms. His psychoevolutionary theory of emotions included the sequential model of emotions and the place of cognitions, which is just a lot of words to explain how this process takes place. Each survival mechanism, from fight or flight to mapping out new territory in your brain, is linked to one of the 8 primary emotions. When we encounter a threat, for example, we need to do something in order to escape that threat and try to survive. Plutchik called this encounter a stimulus event. The inferred cognition that occurs in response to this stimulus is danger. The emotion that we feel is fear, ranging from apprehension to terror. So in this example, fear engages our fight or flight mode, and we end up fighting off the threat or fleeing the situation. And this is our behavior in response to our emotion. The desired effect of our behavior is some form of survival. In this case, it's protection from the threat. Basically, the sequence of events helps to explain the purpose of the use fight or flight, which is one of our most well-known defense mechanisms.